Chosen one, listen carefully. What you are about to hear is not just another message, it is a divine awakening, a spiritual unveiling meant specifically for you. This isn't an algorithmic accident or a casual scroll stop. No, this moment has been orchestrated by heaven itself. If you are here, it is because divine forces have brought you to the edge of a long-awaited revelation. The truth about who you are has been hidden, deliberately, strategically, and with purpose. But now, that truth is about to come into the light. Have you ever felt like there were missing pieces to your past? A strange emptiness you couldn't name, as if something vital about your story was erased before you had the chance to live it fully? Deep down, you've always known that you were different, set apart, but you couldn't explain why. The truth is, you were never meant to fit into the molds the world gave you. You were meant to break them. But before you could recognize your power, there were those who saw it first, and they feared it. Yes, long before you discovered your light, others detected it. Some admired it, but many sought to control it. They blurred your memories, manipulated your circumstances, and planted seeds of doubt in your soul. Why? Because they understood what would happen the moment you realized who you truly were. Nothing could stop you. And so, your identity was hidden, not because you were weak, but because you were dangerously powerful in the spirit. They couldn't kill your calling, so they tried to confuse your path. But make no mistake, the calling over your life was never erased. It has been waiting. Dormant. Guarded. And now, it is time for you to reclaim it. Pause with me for a moment. If these words are resonating deep in your spirit, it is not by chance. Something sacred is stirring. Declare your readiness. Type 999 below as a sign that you are ready to step fully into your divine purpose. Not as a comment, but as a proclamation, a signal to heaven that you are saying yes. Yes to the unveiling. Yes to the truth. Yes to the calling that has followed you through every storm, every betrayal, every unanswered question. From this point forward, everything is about to change. Your story, once fragmented and buried beneath doubt, is about to be pieced together with holy precision. This is not just about healing. It is about revealing. You were never lost. You were hidden. And now God is pulling back the veil. So take a breath. Feel it. The weight in your chest. That is not fear. It is recognition. It is your spirit aligning with the truth it has always known but had no language to express. That you are chosen. That your existence is no accident. That every battle, every silence, every scar has been part of a divine strategy to awaken you to this moment. This isn't entertainment. It's an encounter. This isn't motivation. It's revelation. This is the moment you stop surviving and start remembering. They tried to write your story for you, but the author of your soul is reclaiming his pen. As we step into the deeper truth of who you are, remember this: you are not awakening alone. There is a divine army rising beside you. The very forces that once tried to silence your voice are now powerless in the face of your awakening. And the question that once haunted you, "Who am I?" will soon be answered not with hesitation, but with holy fire. You are God's chosen. And the world is about to see exactly what that means. Let us now uncover the truth they never wanted you to know. Have you ever looked back on your childhood and felt like something deeper was always tugging at your heart? Maybe you couldn't explain it then, but there were moments, sacred, still, and strangely significant, that felt as if the universe had paused to whisper something just to you. Perhaps it was a profound sense of peace that washed over you in silence. Maybe it was a fascination with the stars, the wind, or a pull towards something greater that you couldn't name. These were not random memories. They were spiritual signposts, divine markers placed along your early path. From the very beginning, God had been calling you. Not in thunderous voices or flashing lights, but in the quiet tremble of your spirit. This chapter is about those subtle but sacred signs that your identity as a chosen one was never hidden from heaven, only blurred by the world around you. You see, many chosen ones display spiritual traits long before they understand what they mean. A heightened sensitivity to emotions. A deep compassion for people in pain. A need to observe rather than follow. A curiosity about life, death, God, and purpose that set them apart from their peers. While others found joy in play, you may have found wonder in silence, in shadows, in questions. And yet, for years, this depth was misunderstood. Perhaps you were told you were too sensitive, too quiet, or even too strange. But now, looking back, what the world saw as oddities were in fact gifts, gifts of perception, of awareness, and of divine preparation. Your difference was not your flaw. It was your signature. The Bible tells us in Ephesians 1 verse 4, "For he chose us in Christ before the foundation of the world." Imagine that, before you were born, before the world took shape, God had already set you apart. That deep knowing you've carried since childhood wasn't imagined. It was a remnant of eternity embedded in your soul. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to be set apart. That's why friendships may have felt shallow. That's why you often stood at the edge of the room, observing rather than participating. That's why the pain of others struck you so deeply. You were absorbing, not just existing. You were tuning into the whispers of God before you even knew his name. The story of Samuel illustrates this beautifully. In 1 Samuel 3 verses 1 to 10, we learn of a young boy living in the temple who began hearing a voice calling his name. It happened multiple times before he finally realized it was God speaking. He didn't understand it at first, and neither did those around him. But once he recognized the call, it changed everything. Could it be that you, too, have heard this voice in your own way? A quiet pull. An internal stirring. A moment of clarity no one else understood. The truth is, many chosen ones hear God from a young age, but the noise of the world, or the lack of guidance, makes it hard to recognize. But now, you are starting to remember. Your story mirrors that of many called by God. Take Albert Einstein, for example. As a child, he struggled in school. Teachers dismissed him. His ideas didn't fit the mold. But it was precisely that nonconformity, that different way of thinking, that would later redefine our understanding of the universe. Like you, Einstein was gifted with a lens the world wasn't ready to understand. So when you remember those early years of feeling different, don't label them as misfit moments. See them for what they were, your spiritual formation. You were not behind. You were being prepared. The loneliness, the depth of your questions, the moments that made you feel out of place, they were never signs of inadequacy. They were divine fingerprints. Even the ache of feeling like you were missing something, like parts of your past didn't quite fit, was a clue. The world tried to suppress your true identity, but your soul never forgot. It carried the memory of being chosen, of being called for something sacred. Now is the time to reclaim that awareness. To look at your childhood not with sorrow or confusion, but with reverence. Every moment, every question, every lonely day was orchestrated for your rising. You are not a mistake. You are not too emotional, too strange, or too much. You are marked. And the signs were there from the beginning. Remember this, God has never been far. Even in your earliest days, he was near, guiding, shaping, speaking. And today, you are being reminded that nothing about your story has been random. You were seen. You were chosen. You were set apart, not in adulthood, not recently, but from the very start. So as you reflect on your past, don't run from it. Embrace it. That child who saw too much, felt too deeply, asked too often, that child was already walking with God. And that child has grown into a vessel of divine purpose. Your early signs were not accidents. They were confirmations. And now, it's time to walk boldly in the truth you were born with all along. Have you ever looked around at your own life and wondered, why do I always feel like an outsider? Not just socially, but spiritually. Not just misunderstood, but misplaced. From your earliest memories, you may recall moments where you sensed you simply didn't belong, not because you were broken or inadequate, but because something inside of you beat to a rhythm the world couldn't hear. That sense of disconnection. It wasn't a defect. It was a sign. It was the evidence that you were set apart. Perhaps you tried to blend in, to make sense of your place in classrooms, friend groups, even your own family. But no matter how hard you tried, it never quite worked. Conversations felt shallow. Norms felt foreign. What moved others didn't move you the same way. And often, you were left wondering if something was wrong with you. But let me be clear, that feeling of being different was never a mistake. It was a divine design. Spiritual loneliness is not weakness, it is sacred separation. God doesn't call his chosen ones to blend into broken systems. He calls them to stand apart, to walk with wisdom even when the world calls them strange. That sense of not fitting in, that internal ache, isn't your enemy. It is the echo of heaven reminding you that you were made for something more. The Bible gives us the story of young Samuel in 1 Samuel 3 verses 1 to 10. Even as a child, Samuel was hearing the voice of God. But those around him, even the priest Eli at first, did not recognize it. Samuel felt the stirring, the calling, but lacked the framework to understand it. Isn't that what it feels like for so many chosen ones? To feel the divine tug but not have anyone around you who can name it? You may have walked through your early years feeling as though your inner knowing was dismissed, your sensitivity ridiculed, your deeper thoughts waved off. But just like Samuel, the calling over your life was real, even if no one around you saw it. And let's talk about Einstein. He was labeled slow, out of step, disconnected from the learning structures around him. But what the world saw as dysfunction was actually divine foresight. Einstein thought on a level his generation couldn't yet comprehend. He wasn't broken, he was beyond. His mind wasn't behind, it was ahead. And maybe that's you too. Maybe your perspective has always felt too deep, too wide, too unusual for those around you to grasp. But that's not because you're wrong. It's because you were born to reveal a truth they haven't seen yet. The truth is, God never intended for you to fit into every room. He meant for you to carry a frequency that disrupts the norm. That isolation you felt. It was protection. That inability to relate to certain environments. It was preservation. God has been preserving you, shaping you in silence, hiding you in plain sight, so that when the time comes, you would rise without corruption. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand apart. This isn't just a poetic phrase, it's a spiritual reality. God isolates those he intends to elevate. And elevation always requires consecration. So when you find yourself sitting alone, walking alone, thinking deeper than those around you, don't curse the solitude. It is the place where heaven whispers secrets. Many people around you may never understand the weight you carry, the questions you ask, the discernment you operate with. That's okay. You weren't sent here to be understood by the masses. You were sent to lead them to a truth they have not yet touched. And sometimes, before you can lead, you must be willing to walk alone. That feeling of being overlooked, misunderstood, or even rejected. It's not proof that you're off course. It's confirmation that you're right on time. Remember what Jesus said in John 15 verse 19, "If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. You do not belong to this world because you belong to a higher order." And every time you felt like the odd one out, it was just another whisper from God saying, "I'm keeping you separate for something sacred." So today, instead of mourning your difference, celebrate it. Embrace it. Let your spiritual frequency remain unshaken by the noise of the crowd. Because you weren't born to echo, you were born to declare. You are not lost. You are hidden. And when God reveals you, it will be undeniable. Until then, wear your divine separation with honor. Because the ones who feel most out of place in this world often turn out to be the very ones sent to transform it. From the outside, a sensitive heart may appear fragile, easily wounded, deeply affected by the world's chaos, always on the verge of breaking. But in the divine realm, this sensitivity is not weakness. It is a mark. A sign. A sacred imprint that reveals a deeper calling. For those who have been chosen by God, a sensitive heart is not a flaw to be hidden. It is proof of a soul that has been entrusted with a mission of healing and divine love. From an early age, you may have felt things more intensely than those around you. While others dismissed emotions as fleeting or irrelevant, you could feel the silent cries behind someone's smile, sense the tension in a room long before words were spoken, and carry the weight of others' pain as if it were your own. This ability was not random. It was not accidental. It was given to you by the Creator Himself, because your heart was meant to reflect His. This deep empathy is not just emotional, it is spiritual discernment. It is the ability to see through walls others cannot see through, to notice what is hidden beneath the surface. While the world may label you as too sensitive, God calls you set apart. You have been appointed to walk into places where others have turned away. Your very presence brings warmth to cold rooms. Your voice carries comfort to hearts that have grown numb. You are not ordinary. You are a vessel. Think about the countless times you were the one people turned to in their darkest moments. The one who listened when no one else had the time. The one who gave even when you were empty. You have been the safe place. The resting place. And while the world rarely noticed or reciprocated, heaven recorded it all. Every act of compassion, every silent prayer, every tear shed for someone else, it has all been seen and remembered by God. Galatians 6 verse 2 says, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." This is not a poetic suggestion. It is a direct affirmation of your calling. You are fulfilling divine law every time you feel deeply and respond with love. When others look away, you move closer. When others shut down, you open up. And though it may be exhausting at times, it is holy work. Even Jesus, the Son of God, was moved by compassion. When he saw the multitudes, he didn't respond with distance or judgment. He wept. He healed. He touched the untouchables. He allowed his heart to be pierced by the pain of others. Your sensitivity, then, is not unlike his. You share in his burden. You reflect his heart. Throughout history, the most transformative leaders were those who carried this sacred sensitivity. Princess Diana, known as the People's Princess, embraced the outcast, touched the sick, and cried for the wounded. Mahatma Gandhi, though born into privilege, gave his life to serve the oppressed. These individuals were not driven by status or applause, but by a divine inner pull, a sacred discomfort that would not allow them to ignore suffering. And what about you? Have you ever wondered why you always seem to feel so deeply? Why your heart aches for the broken even when you can do nothing but pray? It is because God has placed a piece of His own heart within you. Your tears are not a liability. They are oil for healing. Your brokenness is not your end, it is how light enters and flows through you. But let us not pretend it is always easy. This calling comes with its burdens. You may often feel overwhelmed, carrying emotions that are not your own. You may walk away from conversations feeling drained, or lie awake at night replaying someone else's pain. You may long to be seen, to be poured into, to be held the way you hold others. And in those moments, it is crucial to remember, the same God who gave you this heart also promises to sustain it. He does not send His messengers into the world unequipped. He strengthens those He sends. Isaiah 40 verse 29 reminds us, He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. When you grow tired, He is your source. When you feel unseen, He is watching. When you feel unloved, He surrounds you with His presence. So do not shrink back. Do not harden your heart to survive. Let your sensitivity remain soft. Let it lead you into deeper places of compassion. Let it continue to be the conduit through which heaven touches earth. You were never meant to be calloused. You were never meant to be indifferent. You were meant to love in a way that leaves a mark. You were chosen to heal. Every time you extend grace, you are fulfilling your purpose. Every time you comfort the broken, you are walking in your anointing. And every time you carry the burdens of others, you are not losing strength, you are storing up treasures in heaven. You are not weak. You are powerful in a way the world cannot comprehend. And the tenderness of your spirit is the very evidence that God lives in you. The world may not always see it. But the kingdom recognizes your light. So keep shining. Keep loving. Keep feeling. For you are not just a sensitive soul. You are a chosen one, carrying out the heart of God in a world desperate to be loved. There are some dreams you forget within minutes of waking. But then, there are others that stay with you for days, weeks, even years. Vivid, intense, and impossibly specific, they feel more like encounters than imaginations. If you've ever woken up feeling as though something sacred was just whispered into your spirit, like a vision was given rather than a dream invented, you are not alone. For the chosen ones, dreams are not just random flickers of the subconscious. They are divine communications. From the very beginning of your journey, God may have been speaking to you in the quiet of the night. When the noise of the world fades, and your soul is at rest, heaven often chooses that moment to reveal a glimpse of your greater purpose. These prophetic dreams carry a distinct energy. They are rarely vague or disjointed. Instead, they arrive with clarity, urgency, or a sense of awe that cannot be shaken. The chosen feel them in their bones, long after the night has ended. These are not dreams that simply replay memories. They deliver messages. They forewarn of dangers, confirm decisions, affirm identities, or unlock mysteries. They carry divine instruction, dressed in symbolic language, like encrypted messages that the spirit must learn to decode. And if you have ever experienced one, if you've ever been stirred awake by a dream that felt more real than life, you need to know, it was never just a dream. It was part of your calling. Scripture gives us countless examples. Joseph, the son of Jacob, received dreams from God at a young age, visions that foretold his rise to power and purpose, even when he was just a boy despised by his brothers. Those very dreams that once made him a target became the foundation of his destiny, Genesis 37. Then there's Daniel, who not only dreamed, but interpreted visions with heavenly wisdom. He saw kingdoms rise and fall before they ever came to pass, Daniel 2. And beyond the pages of Scripture, history confirms it again. Harriet Tubman, the American abolitionist, spoke of vivid dreams and visions that guided her through danger as she led slaves to freedom. These were not whimsical or fanciful, they were spiritual maps handed to her in the quiet of night. When you hear stories like this, does something inside you stir? Could it be that your own dreams are whispering to you about a destiny still unfolding? The content makes it clear, prophetic dreams are not for everyone. They are reserved for those chosen to carry something sacred. A message. A mission. A reminder of who you are and where you are going. Some dreams come to warn, about people, about places, about decisions you must avoid. Others are seeds, planted early and left to grow until the appointed time. You may not fully understand what you saw, but years later, something happens, and suddenly it clicks. The dream was never meaningless. It was preparation. There are moments in life when you receive a vision so striking, so alive, that it won't leave you. You might try to forget it. You might even doubt it. But it returns, again and again, like a holy echo. That is God refusing to let you miss what He is preparing. These dreams might not always come with thunder or lightning. Sometimes, they arrive gently, cloaked in stillness. But their impact is lasting. They change your trajectory. Even in the birth of Jesus, we see this divine method at work. Joseph, the earthly father of Christ, was visited by an angel in a dream. It was through this dream that he was instructed to protect Mary, to accept the divine plan, and to name the child Jesus, Matthew 1 verse 20. One dream changed the course of salvation history. That is the power a single dream can hold in the hands of a chosen one. So what about you? Have you had dreams that felt more like experiences than illusions? Have you seen people, places, or moments in your sleep that later mirrored your waking life? Have you ever been warned, comforted, or propelled by something shown to you in the night? If so, you are not imagining it. God may be revealing pieces of your purpose while the world sleeps. Dreams are sacred terrain. They are one of heaven's tools to shape, guide, and confirm. If you are a person who dreams deeply, consider this: it could be one of the clearest signs that you are among the chosen. That God is entrusting you with glimpses of eternity, one vision at a time. The responsibility is great, but so is the honor. And if you've never thought to keep a journal, perhaps now is the time. Record your dreams. Revisit them. Pray over them. Ask God to show you what He's saying beneath the surface. Because often, the dream is the doorway, and behind it is the path you've been searching for. What you see in dreams may very well be the future God has been preparing you for all along. And if that's true, then every time you sleep, heaven might be writing another chapter of your destiny. There are moments in life that defy explanation. Situations where you should have fallen but didn't. Accidents you narrowly escaped, hardships that nearly broke you, decisions that seemed impossible yet somehow turned in your favor. If you've ever wondered why you survived what others didn't, why you were protected when logic says you shouldn't have been, then this message is for you. You were not saved by coincidence. You were preserved by divine design. For God's chosen ones, protection is not always visible, but it is always present. You have walked through fires that should have consumed you. You've been thrown into metaphorical lions' dens, surrounded by threats, betrayal, and danger, and emerged not only intact but transformed. These moments weren't just lucky breaks. They were strategic interventions by a God who has a plan for your life that cannot be stopped. Think back. Can you recall a time when your life should have gone completely off course, but somehow, it didn't? When you were on the edge of destruction, yet a door opened that you didn't expect? Maybe it was an illness that mysteriously reversed, a crisis that resolved without reason, or a mistake that should have cost you everything, but didn't. These are not accidents. They are signs. Evidence that heaven's hand is guiding your story. The Bible gives us unforgettable testimonies of such supernatural protection. Daniel, a man thrown into a den of hungry lions for remaining faithful, should have been devoured. But Daniel 6 tells us that God sent his angel to shut the mouths of the lions. Daniel walked out untouched. Not because the lions were not dangerous, but because divine protection overruled natural consequence. Likewise, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into a blazing furnace so hot that the flames killed the guards who brought them there. Yet they emerged without a single burn, not even the smell of smoke on them, Daniel 3. Why? Because a fourth figure, like the Son of God, stood with them in the fire. God didn't keep them out of the furnace, He joined them in it. This kind of protection isn't reserved for the pages of Scripture. It continues through history. Martin Luther King Jr., long before delivering his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, was attacked and stabbed in the chest in 1958. Doctors said if he had so much as sneezed, the blade would have punctured his aorta and he would have died instantly. But he survived. And he went on to lead a movement that changed the world. Was that survival random? Or was he protected because his mission wasn't over? You see, when God has called you to a divine assignment, no force, seen or unseen, can take you out before your time. The reason you made it through what others did not is because you are not done. Your story is still unfolding. Your purpose is still active. Every deliverance, every near miss, every miracle in silence is God's way of whispering, "I'm not finished with you yet." Psalm 34 verse 7 says, "The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them." That means the protection over your life isn't passive, it's militant. It's strategic. God doesn't just watch over you from afar, He places divine warriors around you. Isaiah 54 verse 17 reinforces this truth: no weapon formed against you shall prosper. The weapon may be formed. It may be launched. But it will not succeed. Have you ever had a strange urge to take a different route home, only to discover later that danger awaited on your usual path? Have you been delayed in a way that frustrated you, only to realize that delay spared you from disaster? That's not luck. That's orchestration. Heaven rerouted your steps to preserve your destiny. There is a reason you are still here. A reason you didn't break when others did. A reason you rose after every fall. God's hand has been over you, even when you didn't see it. He kept you alive through storms not just to survive, but to build something eternal on the other side. But here's the deeper question: if He's protected you this far, what is He protecting you for? Because divine protection is never aimless. It is always purposeful. God rescues you not just to shield you, but to prepare you. There is more He wants to do through you. There are people He wants to reach through your story. The trials you survived are the very evidence that you are marked, set apart, and chosen for a sacred task. This chapter of your life is not about the trauma you escaped, it's about the testimony you carry. Your scars are not shameful, they are sacred. They are the fingerprints of God's rescue in your life. So don't just reflect on what you've been through. Ask yourself, what am I being kept for? What destiny has heaven assigned to me that no darkness can cancel? Sometimes the greatest miracle is not what God takes you out of, but what He walks with you through. The miracle is that you're still standing, still breathing, still believing. The miracle is you. So don't take your survival lightly. It is not proof of your strength, it is proof of God's purpose. Your enemies may have plotted. The fire may have raged. The lions may have circled. But none of it succeeded. Because your story is not over. Let this truth anchor you: you were preserved for a reason. And as you move forward, hold this question in your spirit: what am I still alive to accomplish? Because your protection was never random. It was divine. And it was always pointing you toward your greater purpose. From the earliest moments of your life, there may have been an invisible thread pulling you toward something sacred. Perhaps it wasn't loud or obvious. Maybe it was a quiet pull, a sense of peace you couldn't quite explain. In moments when other children were carefree, you felt a stillness in your soul, an awareness of something bigger, deeper, and unseen. This wasn't your imagination. It wasn't coincidence. It was the gentle whisper of God, calling you from a place beyond language, beyond understanding. Many of God's chosen ones begin experiencing this divine connection long before they have the words to describe it. You might have felt watched over during moments of pain. Or sensed a presence with you in the silence. Maybe you often found comfort in being alone, not because you rejected others, but because solitude felt sacred. Even before you knew what prayer was, you were praying. Even before you understood faith, you were already walking in it. This early connection is not an anomaly, it is a sign that you were never disconnected to begin with. The content affirms that this type of early spiritual awareness isn't a later life acquisition. It has been woven into your story from the beginning. The Bible echoes this in Jeremiah 29 verse 13, "You will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart." That kind of seeking doesn't begin with a decision in adulthood. It begins with the quiet longing of a child's soul for something eternal. Think back. Were there moments in your childhood when you felt guided, protected, even without knowing why? Did you find comfort in stillness, or feel as though something unseen was standing beside you? These experiences are not small. They are divine fingerprints left on your spirit, preparing you for the path ahead. The Bible gives us a clear picture through the life of Samuel. As a young boy, he was called by God in the middle of the night. At first, Samuel did not recognize the voice. He needed Eli to help him understand that it was God speaking, 1 Samuel 3 verses 4 to 10. Like Samuel, you may have heard the voice of the divine but had no one to interpret it. You may have felt the pull but had no one to confirm it. This message is your Eli. It is here to tell you, yes, what you experienced was real. History also gives us living examples. Joan of Arc, a simple village girl in France, testified that she heard divine voices from childhood. Though others laughed or doubted, she followed those voices with unwavering faith. That spiritual guidance helped her free a nation. Her connection was not something learned. It was something awakened. It was always there. Mahatma Gandhi, though widely known for political leadership, often spoke of his quiet communion with God. He said, "Prayer is not asking. It is a longing of the soul." From a young age, Gandhi recognized a force bigger than himself that directed his conscience and ignited his passion for justice. This deep spiritual sensitivity was not taught. It was placed within him from the beginning, just like you. Perhaps you've always known things without being taught. Perhaps you felt truth without needing it to be explained. These are signs of a sacred connection formed long before you were conscious of it. If you've ever sat in silence and felt a presence that comforted you, or if you've wept without knowing why, but felt that your tears were somehow understood, then you have already experienced the divine. This message isn't here to convince you of something new. It is here to confirm what your soul has always known. The reason you were drawn to this content is not because you're searching for a new identity, but because you're finally remembering the one that was given to you all along. In those moments where you felt safe even in chaos, when peace washed over you like a river with no source, those were moments of divine connection. When you whispered to God without knowing if He could hear, and yet still felt heard, those were sacred exchanges. You were never alone. You have always been seen. The world may have told you otherwise. Maybe you were called strange, overly sensitive, or even delusional. But the truth is, you were spiritually awake in a sleeping world. You were listening while others were distracted. That does not make you broken. It makes you chosen. Jeremiah 29 verses 12 to 13 says, "You will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." This is not a promise reserved only for adults, pastors, or prophets. It is a promise for anyone who has a heart that seeks, including the heart of a child. The divine connection you carry is not something you need to build from scratch. It is something you need to return to. And returning is not about striving. It is about surrender. It is about allowing your heart to remember what your mind may have forgotten. This chapter of your journey is not the beginning. It is a continuation of something holy that began long ago. Before the world tried to tell you who you were, God had already spoken it. Before life tried to harden your heart, God had already written His love into it. Before the confusion, the noise, and the doubt, there was clarity, silence, and assurance. That same clarity still lives in you now. So if you have ever felt a mysterious closeness to the divine without understanding why, take heart. You are not imagining it. You are remembering it. And now, that connection is calling you deeper. You are not starting a relationship with God. You are stepping back into one that has always existed. It is sacred. It is powerful. And it is yours. There comes a point in every chosen one's life when they begin to feel an overwhelming sense of separation, not just from people, but from the world itself. This sensation isn't born from arrogance, failure, or isolation in the way society often defines it. Rather, it is part of a holy design, a spiritual curriculum tailored by God Himself. If you have ever found yourself wondering why you seem to stand on the outskirts of every circle, why your heart perceives life so differently, why you carry a silent sorrow no one around you seems to understand, this message is for you. Being set apart doesn't always feel holy. More often, it feels like rejection. From childhood, you may have struggled to fit in, to connect fully with family, with classmates, even within your community. While others celebrated fitting into social norms, you quietly questioned the very foundation of those norms. While others found comfort in belonging, you were haunted by a truth you couldn't yet articulate, that you were not meant to blend in, but to be refined in solitude. This feeling of divine separation isn't a punishment. It's a consecration. God has a history of calling his chosen ones into seasons of isolation before launching them into purpose. Look at the story of Joseph. His brothers, blinded by envy, cast him into a pit and sold him into slavery. It would have been easy for Joseph to believe he was forgotten, cast aside. Yet, every betrayal, every false accusation, every prison cell was not a delay, it was divine preparation. By the time God elevated him to rule Egypt, Joseph had been shaped in the fire of abandonment and loss. The rejection was not a detour. It was the doorway to his destiny. In the same way, you might be feeling misunderstood, misplaced, or even invisible. But let me assure you, you are not lost. You are being hidden. Hidden not because you are unworthy, but because your unveiling must align with divine timing. God hides what he treasures. Like a seed in the soil, your time in obscurity is not death, it's development. Nikola Tesla, another example from history, lived most of his life outside societal approval. Labeled eccentric, misunderstood by the world, and often overlooked by mainstream recognition, he possessed a mind far beyond his time. He envisioned technologies that wouldn't be realized for decades. He saw what others could not. That very separation was the soil where his brilliance grew. His loneliness was not in vain. Neither is yours. Even Jesus, the Son of God, walked this path of rejection. As the Gospel of John reminds us, he came to his own, and his own did not receive him, John 1 verse 11. The Savior of humanity was met with doubt, disdain, and ultimately crucifixion, not because he was wrong, but because the world was not ready for the light he carried. If Jesus himself was misunderstood by his own people, why would you think your path as a chosen one would be free from that same tension? Your feeling of not fitting in is not a flaw. It is your fingerprint of being chosen. It is heaven's way of signaling that you have been marked for more. God separates before he elevates. He disconnects before he commissions. What you may perceive as distance is actually divine strategy. When people leave you out, when circles close without you, when even loved ones seem unable to reach the depth of your spirit, don't internalize it as a curse. It is often the echo of God whispering, "I am enough for you." In this lonely place, your ears are trained to hear what cannot be heard in crowds. Your spiritual senses are awakened. Your dependency shifts from applause to alignment, from popularity to purpose. There is a reason why some of your deepest growth has occurred in seasons of solitude. When no one was calling, when the door stayed closed, when you cried without reply, those were the moments when your soul became fertile ground for the voice of God. The silence wasn't empty. It was sacred. The training of the chosen one often occurs in shadows. Before David ever faced Goliath, he faced lions and bears in the wilderness, unseen by the crowds. His courage wasn't born on the battlefield, it was forged in the pasture. Likewise, your current isolation is not your end. It is your equipping. Being misunderstood is painful, but it is also prophetic. The depth of your sorrow reveals the depth of your calling. The weight of your questions reveals the weight of your purpose. Those who are called to carry spiritual authority often endure emotional terrains that feel desolate and dry. But these deserts are not barren. They are birthing grounds. God has not forgotten you. He is forming you. He is stripping away the need to be validated by others so that your only source of truth is Him. He is creating a vessel strong enough to carry glory, not just comfort. He is teaching you to walk alone so you can one day lead multitudes with integrity. What others see as weakness, God sees as willingness. What the world labels as loneliness, God calls intimacy. What feels like abandonment is often God removing noise so you can hear His instruction clearly. What feels like a delay is really divine design. So, the next time you feel excluded, remember Joseph in the pit. Remember Tesla in his lab. Remember Jesus on the cross. And then remember this: what separated them also sanctified them. You are not just set apart. You are being prepared. Let this awareness awaken something within you. Let it reframe your history of rejection. Let it restore the honor of your hidden seasons. You are not broken. You are in training. You are not forsaken. You are favored. And soon, the very things that once made you feel alone will become the reasons others seek your voice, your insight, and your light. This is the holy curriculum of the chosen. Separation is not punishment. It is placement. And you, dear chosen one, are right where you need to be. From the time you were young, there was something different about the way your mind worked. While others were content with simple answers and surface-level distractions, you found yourself drawn to the deeper mysteries of life. You wanted to know why you were here, what your true purpose was, and who God really is. These weren't fleeting thoughts or passing curiosities, they were sacred stirrings, undeniable inner yearnings that marked you as someone chosen to uncover divine truth. This was not just a hunger for knowledge. It was a spiritual invitation. Many people drift through life, satisfied with what the world teaches them. But you never could. You were never meant to. The questions inside you were too loud to ignore, too persistent to silence. That passion for understanding was not an accident. It was God calling you to seek what others overlook. Spiritual hunger is one of the strongest signs of divine selection. In Proverbs 25 verse 2, the Bible says, "It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search it out." That means your desire to dig deeper, to question, to explore what lies beyond the visible, is not only valid, it is noble. It is royal. It is the evidence of your calling. Think of Solomon. When God offered him anything, Solomon didn't ask for riches, power, or fame. He asked for wisdom, a discerning heart to govern well, to know good from evil. And because he asked for truth, God gave him more than he could imagine. His name became synonymous with divine insight. Like Solomon, your thirst for truth is a sign that your spirit is wired for revelation. The same could be said for Isaac Newton, who not only revolutionized physics but also spent years studying the Bible, convinced that the laws of nature reflected the mind of God. And Leonardo da Vinci, whose curiosity stretched beyond art and invention into the metaphysical realm. He asked questions others feared. He saw connections others missed. These were not just geniuses. They were seekers of sacred knowledge. You too may have noticed these patterns in yourself. From a young age, you may have been the one who read books others found boring, asked questions others avoided, and saw meaning where others saw nothing. You may have always been unsettled by shallow explanations. You weren't trying to be difficult, you were trying to get to the truth. Maybe you felt the weight of those questions pressing against your chest late at night. Maybe you've wondered why the simple joys of the world never satisfied you the way they seem to satisfy others. It's because your spirit was made for something more. You were never meant to blend into this world. You were meant to unlock mysteries. To be a vessel of clarity in a world of confusion. There is a sacred responsibility that comes with this kind of curiosity. It isn't just about accumulating knowledge. It's about illumination. God is preparing you to lead others to truth, to shine light into hidden places, to expose what is false and reveal what is real. But it's not an easy road. People may mock your questions. They may label you too intense, too complicated, or too idealistic. But they don't see what God sees. They don't feel what you feel. The very questions that make others uncomfortable are the questions that qualify you to carry divine insight. Remember, even Jesus was misunderstood when he spoke in parables. He said things that only those with ears to hear could understand. Like him, you may find that not everyone is ready to receive the truths you uncover. But that doesn't mean you stop searching. It means you keep going. Your questions are not a burden. They are your birthright. They are your compass. The fact that you can't stop seeking is the clearest sign that you were born for revelation. And the more you seek, the more God will show you. Because he doesn't waste curiosity. He rewards it. So ask. Dig. Explore. Cry out for understanding. There are truths waiting to be uncovered, truths that God has reserved not for the casual believer, but for the chosen seeker. You are that seeker. You are the one who was born to lift the veil. And perhaps you have felt the frustration of not finding people who share your thirst. Maybe you've walked through seasons where you wondered if something was wrong with you because you couldn't just be content. But I assure you, there is nothing wrong with you. In fact, it's just the opposite. There is something very right with you. That fire in your spirit is evidence that you carry a divine assignment. This chapter of your life is about more than curiosity. It's about awakening. About stepping into your identity as one who uncovers what has been hidden. As one who makes complicated truths simple and invisible things visible. And so I ask you, have you ever felt that your questions were too big for the room you were in? Have you ever sensed that your insights were meant for something greater than casual conversation? If so, then maybe you're not just a student of truth. Maybe you are a messenger of it. God is not intimidated by your questions. In fact, He placed them there. And if you follow that hunger with humility and faith, you will find answers that others can't. Because you are not ordinary. You are chosen. And your desire for truth is the evidence that your purpose is unfolding exactly as it was written. When divine truth is revealed to you, it is never meant to remain hidden within. Every insight, every spiritual awakening, every whisper from heaven carries with it a divine assignment. You were not just given revelation for your own benefit, you were entrusted with it, called to be a carrier of light in a world that still gropes in darkness. There is a weight that comes with spiritual clarity. And while many pray for vision, few are truly prepared to carry the responsibility that vision brings. Revelation is not entertainment for the soul, it is a mandate. The more you see, the more you are expected to respond. And the deeper your insight, the greater your accountability to walk in it and speak it, even when your voice trembles and your audience resists. Because make no mistake, revelation does not come without a price. Every chosen one, every messenger of truth, has felt the sting of rejection and the burden of isolation. You were shown things others could not see, not because you were better, but because you were selected to lead. And with that calling comes both the fire of opposition and the fire of purpose. Let's look to those who came before us. Moses didn't ask for the assignment. In fact, he tried to avoid it. When God called him to stand before Pharaoh and deliver a nation, Moses responded with doubt and resistance. Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Exodus 3 verse 11. But heaven had already chosen him. His life was preserved for this exact moment. And though he felt unqualified, God saw destiny. The same happened with the Apostle Paul. Once a persecutor of the church, he was blinded by revelation, literally, and transformed into one of the most powerful voices of the early church. But it wasn't easy. His newfound truth alienated him from his past allies, and his message was too radical for many to accept. Still, he did not stop. Because when you have seen the truth, silence becomes a betrayal of the calling. Jesus Christ himself, the purest embodiment of divine truth, was not only rejected but crucified for revealing the kingdom of God. John 1 verse 11 says, "He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him." And yet, he did not shrink back. He did not dilute the message to gain approval. Because truth is not dependent on consensus, it is eternal. It simply is. Even in history, outside the pages of Scripture, we see this pattern repeat. Galileo, a scientist moved by divine curiosity, declared what his eyes and instruments revealed, that the earth revolved around the sun. The church of his day silenced him. But centuries later, humanity recognized his voice not as rebellion, but as revelation. So what about you? If you have been given dreams that stir you in the night, visions that won't leave you, or insights that pierce through cultural fog, it is because you are meant to speak. Your revelation is not random, it is a signal. You were shown these things not to hide them, but to release them. Because someone's breakthrough is connected to your obedience. Someone's awakening is waiting on your boldness. You may be tempted to keep it to yourself. To say, "It's too much," or "They won't understand." And yes, you will be misunderstood. You will be labeled too intense, too spiritual, too radical. But you were not chosen for comfort, you were chosen for impact. You were never meant to blend in. You were called to stand out. Revelation is a sacred trust. God never pours wisdom into an unwilling vessel. If He has chosen to reveal mysteries to you, it's because He already knows you can carry them. Even if you feel unworthy. Even if you still have questions. You don't need to be perfect to speak the truth, you just need to be faithful. Jeremiah 33 verse 3 says, "Call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." But once those unsearchable things are shown to you, they come with divine expectation. To whom much is given, much will be required. This isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to awaken you. We live in an hour where spiritual truth is desperately needed. The world is saturated with information but starved for revelation. And here you are, with insight, with discernment, with the ability to see what others overlook. That is not a coincidence. That is a calling. And yes, it will cost you. You may lose relationships. You may be dismissed by those you once admired. You may feel like a voice crying in the wilderness. But you are not alone. Every prophet, every reformer, every spiritual warrior has walked this same narrow road. There will be moments where you want to retreat. Where you'll wish you never saw what you saw. But that's when you must remember, your revelation was not just for you. It was for your generation. Your silence helps no one. Your voice, even shaking, is still a weapon in the hands of God. You don't need a platform, you just need obedience. You don't need the crowd, you just need the cloud. If heaven is with you, who can stand against you? So here is the real question, will you speak, even if no one applauds? Will you move, even if you must walk alone? Will you hold the line, even when your knees are shaking? Because someone is watching. Someone is listening. Someone is looking for a light, and you are the one holding it. The time for hiding is over. The time for shrinking is over. This is your hour to rise, not because you have all the answers, but because you have seen something that cannot stay silent. You are not here by accident. Your voice was designed to disrupt darkness. Your revelation is not just insight, it is instruction. You are a torchbearer. A truth speaker. A chain breaker. So cry out. Declare what God has shown you. Be bold in love. Be fearless in truth. You were not given light to keep it under a bowl. You were given light to shine on the hilltop. And when the opposition comes, and it will, remember that you walk in the footsteps of giants. Remember that rejection is not your end, it's your anointing. It's confirmation that what you carry is holy, is heavy, and is heaven sent. Jeremiah 20 verse 9 says, "His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in, indeed, I cannot." That is the weight of revelation. And that is your calling. So now, I ask you, are you ready to speak what God has shown you, even if it costs you everything? Are you prepared to walk the lonely road if it leads others into light? Because truth is not popular, but it is powerful. And if God has trusted you with it, He will also walk with you as you deliver it. The question is no longer, why me? The question is, will I be faithful? There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when silence must give way to awakening. A moment when what was hidden for years, sometimes decades, can no longer remain in the shadows. That moment is now. The truth about who you are has been buried long enough. The veil is lifting. The blindfold is falling. The time has come to reclaim what the world, and the enemy, worked so hard to strip from you, your divine identity. You were never ordinary. Even in your quietest moments, there was a whisper in your soul that you were set apart. That your life carried a weight greater than survival, greater than success, greater than comfort. You were created not just to exist, but to embody divine purpose. You were chosen by God, marked with a heavenly seal that not even time, trauma, or betrayal could erase. For years, you may have questioned that. You may have wandered through confusion, heartbreak, and rejection, asking silently, "Who am I? Why does my path feel so different?" The answer was never far. It was simply hidden, buried under systems that feared your light, voices that doubted your worth, and circumstances designed to dim your fire. But no more. As it is written in Luke 8 verse 17, "For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open." This is your moment of unveiling. You are not forgotten. You are not broken beyond use. You are not disqualified. You are chosen, protected, refined, and now, released. What you carry is not just revelation, but responsibility. The insight you've been given, the truth that has unfolded in your spirit, was never meant for you alone. It was entrusted to you so that you would become a light to those still searching. A voice to those still silent. A living testimony of what it means to be both hidden and held by the hand of God. Let us be clear, being chosen does not mean being comfortable. It means being called. It means carrying what others cannot. Feeling what others ignore. Seeing what others deny. And yet, still choosing to move forward in faith. Because you know now that your difference was never your disadvantage, it was your divine distinction. The signs have always been there. The childhood questions that no one could answer. The dreams that refused to leave you. The inner knowing that something was off with the world's version of reality. The loneliness that turned into intimacy with God. All of it, every strange moment, every silent ache, was God's way of shaping you for such a time as this. Reclaiming your divine identity is not about pretending to be perfect. It's about finally walking in alignment with what heaven already says about you. You were called before the foundation of the world, Ephesians 1 verse 4. You were knit together with intention and sealed with purpose, Psalm 139 verses 13 to 16. And now, the echo of eternity is calling you to rise, not in pride, but in obedience. Not in fear, but in authority. Say it with boldness, "I am not lost. I am not late. I am chosen. And I remember who I am." There is a spiritual weight to that remembrance. Because once you remember, you can no longer live like you forgot. Once you reclaim your identity, you must also reclaim your role. You are not just someone who receives the light, you are someone called to carry it into darkness. You are not just someone who was delivered, you are now called to become a deliverer. That's why this moment is so sacred. It's not just about inspiration. It's about activation. Heaven is not calling you to watch passively from the sidelines. It is inviting you to step onto the field. To speak what you see. To live what you believe. To shine even when it's not convenient, even when it's not safe, even when it's not popular. You are reclaiming your divine identity not only for your healing, but for the healing of others. Your story will awaken others. Your courage will convict others. Your light will illuminate paths for those still trapped in shadow. This is what it means to be chosen, not just to be set apart, but to be sent out. And yes, this calling comes with resistance. The enemy does not fear titles. He fears truth. And when you begin walking in the fullness of your divine identity, every lie that once bound you begins to crumble. The atmosphere shifts. Generational cycles begin to break. Darkness loses its grip. That's why you've been fought so hard. That's why your identity had to be hidden. But now that you've seen, you cannot unsee. Now that you know, you cannot unknow. Isaiah 60 verse 1 declares it clearly, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." This is not a metaphor. This is your commission. Arise from fear. Arise from delay. Arise from guilt. Arise from smallness. The glory is not coming, it has come. And it rests upon those who are willing to say yes. So say yes. Yes to the call. Yes to the cost. Yes to the crown. Because everything you've walked through was not in vain. It was preparation. It was formation. And now, finally, it is activation. You are chosen. Your story is not over. In fact, it's only just beginning. The most powerful part is still ahead. The redemption. The influence. The legacy. The harvest. So don't hold back. Don't shrink. Don't apologize for the oil on your life. Instead, reaffirm it. Speak it. Declare it. Not for likes, not for applause, but as a prophetic declaration that you are returning to who you truly are. You are reclaiming what was always yours. And now, a gentle invitation for those who feel the fire rising within. If this message awakens something in you, something ancient, something sacred, don't let it stop here. Like this video to affirm your awakening. Subscribe to stay connected to the stream of spiritual truth. Leave a comment, something simple, something bold, to mark this moment of return. And if your spirit nudges you to do more, share this message. Not just for algorithm's sake, but because someone out there is still in hiding, still asleep, still wondering who they really are. And your act of sharing may be the key that unlocks their remembrance. Your divine identity is not a concept, it is a call. And the time to answer that call is now. You are chosen. Your purpose is divine. And your light is needed now more than ever. The world is waiting. Heaven is watching. And you, yes, you, are ready. Welcome home.